Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another video. This is going to be a golf swing analysis submitted to /r/golf by slowchildren. I was able to download it here, so let's go ahead and take a look. Alright, so watched the video a few times now, and I got a nice swing. Good start here, and a lot of nice things to work with. Let's just go ahead and scrub through this a little bit. Now the camera's kind of wobbling. I believe it's just held by somebody, so it's not going to necessarily work to draw some lines, though I may try. But overall, a nice motion here. One of the things that immediately kind of draws to my attention is your spine posture as it moves throughout the swing. So again, this is probably not going to work, but this is kind of generally what I'm looking at, is if there's a straight line here down your spine. Now, if we let the video run, you'll notice that here you can actually see pretty clearly, I think, that you've kind of gone towards this a little bit, which would indicate to me that like your head has kind of come down a little bit in your backswing. And then let me go back to setup here, draw that line again. Then if we go to impact, then I also see, so you get to the top, and then you actually kind of undo. So if at this position, if you are kind of head is too far down, butt is too far back, then you actually early extend is what this is called, where your hip has come in and then your head is pulled back. So your spine is kind of, instead of maintaining around this initial position, it is shifting and changing its position throughout the swing, and I think that's going to lead to some instability. So let's talk about how we can try to address that and help fix it. With early extension, one of the things that I often look at is, so if this is your butt line, then your spine, the angle of your spine. And one of the things that I see here is you do have what appears to be kind of like a little bit of a arch here in your lower back, meaning you're kind of in what would be considered a traditionally athletic position, as if you're a basketball player ready to play defense. And I certainly understand the desire to be athletic in the golf swing, but the moment that you need to be athletic is actually right here, that impact. That's the moment that counts. Your setup is really just enabling you to get into a better impact position. Okay, so I would argue that you want to probably soften this a little bit, and what I mean by that is talking about the angle of your pelvis. So if I draw a line here on your belt, imagine that it projects a laser out, okay? Now, it's kind of going off at this angle right now. What I'd want you to try and do is to learn how to flex the pelvis a little bit, and what that means is so get into the setup position and then try to even exaggerate it, right? Try to make this angle even more abrupt, right, where you're really arching your back, your lower back is arched, your butt is way out this way. So try to really feel that, okay? And then once you feel that extreme, then try and feel the other extreme where this part of your back softens, and then your butt actually comes in, your hips come forward. It's almost kind of changing it so that instead of your belt angle being like this, it would actually be more like this, pointing pretty much straight out in front of you. And it's going to kind of feel a little bit like an old man posture, where your lower back is a little more arched. Now, what I'm advocating for is that if you would shift your setup posture to just have a little bit more, so maybe your butt goes in a little bit further, and maybe you've just got a little bit more of a soft curve here, instead of this kind of, what I currently see is where you've got this more arched angle. Try to make that flat, or even, flat like this, or even just slightly curved like that, so that your tush is more tucked underneath, and your belt line points up more like this. Okay, so that would be your first issue, and to talk a little bit about the reason why that happens is if you start with this very athletic, I'm going to call it basketball defense position, when you get into your backswing, you can see it a little bit. You get to the top of your swing, and there's really nowhere else for you to go, right? Look at how kind of this angle here is pretty sharp. You're pretty strained. There's really nowhere for you to go but for this. See, look at how far the right hip. Let me just track that for a second. Okay, so if I put a line here, this is where your right hip is. And we can see that as you come in, it really moves forward. Now, typically what you would want is a position instead where when you get to the top, let's say hypothetically that you had tucked your butt under a little bit better, it's certainly good to rotate your hip open, but you need to have some room and some capability. So maybe if your hip is getting to this position, then your left hip can drive back instead of the right hip driving forward. I realize we're talking about circular rotation, but I almost think of it as if you think of like a door on a hinge, right? So if this is a door on a hinge, if the hinges are on this side, right, and this is the wall, then the door can open and close this way or this way. Well, if you change it so that the hinge is actually, let me get my door back. If you change it so that the hinge is over here, well, you're technically still opening and closing the door, but you're kind of changing the central point around which you rotate, right? So now you're going this way. In your position, I would kind of advocate that you try to have a little bit of that shift where you have a little bit more of a, again, starting with changing how your setup posture works, and I'm certainly good with opening the right hip in the backswing, but you need to have room so that as you come in the downswing, you drive this left hip back to maintain. So you're just simply replacing, right? So if you were to take a golf posture and then scoot up against a wall, right? When you go into your backswing, you'll notice that your right hip will contact the wall. Then when you go into your downswing, you just want it to roll, like your tush line is rolling across the wall like this, so that your left hip retains the contact against the wall. Whereas if we go through your swing again, you'll notice you simply just kind of, your right hip moves forward, but your left hip doesn't really ever move back. Okay? So give that a shot. And just in general, to kind of touch on this posture thing, I think that the better idea would be that at setup, you want to be a little more relaxed and maybe a little bit more upright. And then your backswing is kind of your preparation. And then this transition point right here, you really want that to be kind of the moment where your back arches, left hip drives open, and that's kind of when you engage. So I hope that some of those ideas are helpful. Try some of that, that initial setup thing, and then also trying to really maintain that posture and some early extension fixes as well. I would, again, start with the setup stuff and then go from there. So please let me know your feedback down below, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.